Awesome.
Right.
So for the purpose of the camera, obviously we're doing a demonstration today of pre-frame talent therapy. So we're not going to be doing any talent therapy, Gordon.
Yeah.
We've just had a chat and you're going to be role-playing somebody who's having a talent therapy session for the first time. Is that okay?
Bit cynical.
Yeah, just I think desperate to let go, but not sure that the process will work for you.
I got it. Yeah.
So, welcome Gordon. Obviously we've done some work before. And how did you get on journaling the emotions in the past? Have you managed to?
Yeah, I've made some notes. This little bullet point, and some bits popped up.
Perfect. Awesome. Very good. And today, just as we start the process, what we're going to do before we start, we're going to spend about half an hour or so just describing what we're doing, just so that you get a chance to ask any questions that you've got, go through the process, and understand at the end, and be confident of getting going. It might feel like you're just playing at it to begin with, but we're going to kind of take some time to get to that starting point. So first things first, just want to explain a little bit about actually the timeline. This idea of floating on a timeline is quite grand, but actually what we're just going to do is spend some time just going back to some events from the past that happened recently, just to get this idea of what we call disassociation. So when we're experiencing emotion, we're looking through our own eyes. And when we're disassociated, we're looking down at ourselves. So what we're going to do is just spend some time very simply accessing a memory from the past. So can you think of something that happened yesterday or today, or maybe last week, that either was a happy event or just an inconsequential event? Could have been you at the cinema or going to the shops. Yeah. Got something in mind?
Yeah.
Perfect. So Gordon, if you wouldn't mind, just close your eyes for me. And can you just float up above now, turn and face the past and float right down inside that memory, looking through your own eyes at that time where you were in that event. Are you there now?
So just to go to that event.
Yeah, just go down inside it.
Okay.
And just tell me what emotion you're experiencing. There might not be any, but just tell me what emotion you're experiencing.
A little bit of mild excitement.
Mild excitement,
Yeah.
perfect. And do you mind just floating up above that event now? So you're floating so high up above the event that the emotion disappears completely. So you're up above the event, looking down on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And then just from that event, can you just come back to now and float down? Awesome. Well done. Great. So if you can do that, Gordon, you can do timeline therapy. What we've just explained is two different positions in timeline therapy. So position 2 is looking down on the event, disassociated. And position 4 is looking through your own eyes. And what most people don't realise is that actually if you are disassociated, you're not feeling emotions. And I don't know about you, has anybody ever laid in bed at night and not been able to, have you ever laid in bed at night and not been able to sleep because of emotion? I think most people have, I certainly have. And when that happens, what happens is we're reliving a memory, or like an argument with the boss or a client or our partner or whoever, and we relive that memory looking through our own eyes, and then we feel the emotion. It's the emotion that keeps us awake. So by floating up, if we were to float up above that event and look down on it and ask ourselves, what is it I need to learn from this event that will allow us to let go of the emotion, that would help us to release the emotion from that event. So actually after today, there'll be some benefits of knowing timeline therapy going forwards. So I just wanted to share.
I get what you're saying about that. But in that bit, when it's happening, I'm not in it reliving it. I think it's just churning over.
Yeah.
So is this the same as that?
So now, what we're going to be doing is, first things first, we need to elicit where these emotions came from. And you may or may not be aware. So disassociation is your friend. So we'll spend most of our time in that position looking down an event, and I'll be asking this question: what do you need to learn from this event? The learning which will allow you to let go of the emotion. But before we do that, we need to know where these emotions came from. Now, we're going to be working on anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. Have we spoken about the Gestalt before?
A tiny bit.
Tiny bit.
A tiny bit.
So I'm just going to remind you of something. So I don't suppose you've watched Inside Out, the kids' film, but if you had, didn't think you would have. If you had, it's a great film, worth watching. So what we find is that emotions with the same memories are linked together. So we've talked about in the past that we've got this lens that we're looking at through the world. We see 134 bits of information out of 2 million. And here we are looking at the world through a lens of all these emotions from the past. So the first time you experienced anger, Gordon, would have been very young. And then the next time you experience that memory, that emotion, it links the two memories together. and then the next time. And then what you end up with is this gestalt of memories with the same emotion linked together. And then of course, significant emotional events occur. And it's kind of like we've now got carrying around this emotion with us.
Does that mean I'm going to have to go through every single one of these?
It's a very good
We could
question.
be here for days.
We could. And the nice thing about timeline therapy is that we are going to let go. You'll be surprised how easy and effortless it is actually to let go of them when we find the root cause. So I'll come on to that. We're going to use a root cause script to find out the root cause of the emotions and then use that to let go. It's almost like if you imagine a string of pearls.
Mm-hmm.
If we go back to the first event where the emotion first, the source of the emotions first, if you chop a string of pearls, if you held a string of pearls up, if we would chop them off at the bottom, at that first string, the whole sequence of pearls would drop down. So that's kind of how timeline therapy works. Now, actually, why it was invented, because if you've had traumatic stuff that happens age 10 or 11, you don't really want to talk about it.
Mm.
So it allows us to go back to a first event and let go of the emotions from that early event. And then
So is this like a guided visualization that you're going to just take me through in that kind of new agey way?
Well, so I am trained in hypnosis as well. Having said that, hypnosis is very good for letting go of things such as smoking cessation and specific things. When we're dealing with emotions, we find that timeline therapy is the best technique, because with hypnosis you have to create a story which heals the client. Now, I don't know the story required to heal you. The person who knows everything they need to know to heal you is you, because you've been carrying these emotions around with you your whole life, and so you find yourself rationalising these emotions on a daily basis. It's like you feel guilty. You feel guilty, then you know you shouldn't feel guilty, and you rationalise it.
Yeah.
So what we're going to be doing is, imagine this process is like taking the mature you into the past and actually sinking the immature you, which is your unconscious mind, with most of its programming 0 to 16. It's like taking the mature Gordon and teaching the younger Gordon something, which then releases emotions. One of the magics of timeline therapy is, you know, like we're lying in bed and we take the learnings, the emotions release. The learnings are the key to letting go of the emotions from the past.
Right. So basically, I've got this. I've been way down exactly what you said. That kind of guilt thing that just and it churns over, and I've rationalised it, but it's still kind of there.
Mm.
And this sounds a bit like you're going to take me through a little floaty thing, and the adult me is going to talk to several of the younger me's, and it's all going to go away.
That's amazingly so. Now, you might naturally at this stage, people are pretty sceptical. In fact, you wouldn't be human if you weren't sceptical, because I certainly was. I did time. I mean, I wouldn't be sat here now if I hadn't been through what you've been through. And obviously not the same stuff specifically, but I used to have the belief that wasn't good enough and the fear of failure. So I went on my timeline therapy journey in 2010 on a master practitioner course. Never intended to. In fact, I tried to book on the course without doing timeline therapy because I didn't believe in it, because I thought it was all fluffy nonsense. And actually, lo and behold, when it got to that part of the course, that's where I had the biggest breakthrough. So
I've got a few reservations, to be honest.
Well, that
sounds a little bit new agey and a little bit to the learning journey, you know.
Well, do you know what? I have immense respect for all of my clients to get to this point, the vulnerability we've shown to this point, to get all, we know what emotions we're dealing with, we've got the deeper person history here, anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt.
Can I ask, so I trust you.
Yeah.
Do I have to believe in it for it to work?
That's a great question. I think if you think of this as you playing at it, now you're quite a logical chap, so guessing is probably not something that comes particularly natural.
Not for this kind of importance. Yeah.
So weirdly, if you feel like you're playing at it, and if I'm asking you questions, you're guessing at the answers, you'll get good results today. And it will surprise you, it will genuinely surprise you, but my job is I'm committed to this session, and by the end of our time today, my intention is to make sure that we both leave this room with you 100% clear of all negative emotions that we found in this detailed personal history. In order to get there, what I'll need from you is your commitment that you'll play at it, you'll guess, you'll say the first thing that comes to your mind, and you'll be completely honest with me when I ask you, when we're testing if the emotions have gone. Because sometimes, I don't put you in this category, sometimes people like to please people, and they say, oh yeah, no, it's gone, when actually there's a little bit left. So when we're testing, I need you to be completely
So when you're testing, you're talking, so that means I need to go in and relive every single event.
Well, the nice thing is we're going to let go of the emotions first, and then you will get to test the emotions, the memories that you want to test, so that you're sure.
So I'm not going to have to live it to get rid of it.
No, we're going to go back to a
So
first
I'm
event.
going to guess, and that's going to get rid of it.
So we're going to do this process called eliciting the root cause, which will elicit the root cause of where these emotions came from, and then we'll go all the way back to that event, which will have been an early event on your gestalt. We'll let go of the emotions from that event, and then the traumatic emotions will actually release, not by looking at them, by looking at that first event. Now, typically at this go, and what clients typically think, they go, okay, Bevis, I get this, I get that disassociation, I get this idea that the learnings release the emotions. Typically at this point, what clients say is, how the flip am I going to get back this first event of emotion? Now, what I would say to that is, the way in which your mind imagines events in the future is very similar to how your mind will imagine events in the past. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a couple of things. We've had a little bit of float back onto the timeline into an event, an imagined event. We're now going to do that again and introduce some different positions, and then we're going to go into the future and imagine an event in the future. Because however you imagine an event in the future will be very similar to how you represent an event in the past.
I kind of get some of it, but a bit of going, I'm talking big stuff here.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, I just need to guess it. I mean, I trust you, but I don't know if I can trust this, because it's all about imagination, isn't it? And my imagination goes rampant, and I churn these thoughts over, and that hasn't worked so far. So,
yeah,
I'm not being funny, but
no, and I get that, and I think the thing is, it's really tricky to deal with an unconscious problem consciously. So in order to deal with an unconscious problem, we need to use an unconscious technique. That in its very nature means that it's going to be a bit weird. So there's kind of an openness that we wouldn't be here if we weren't open to the idea of having a go, playing at it. When I say guess, I only mean guess in terms of saying the first thing that comes to your mind. Because it's a bit like when you're doing a quiz machine, you go chum chum chum, and it turns out you've hit the right answer. Is it the right answer because you guessed and you were lucky, or is it the right answer because you guessed and actually that answer was in your unconscious mind?
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
So I think we're getting closer to beginning. What I'd like to do now is we've gone back to one memory, and we've gone into what we call position 4, which is inside the event, and position 2 looking down on the event. I want to introduce a couple of other positions now. So can you think of an event where you were either a positive happy event or an event with a bit of frustration recently? You think of
recent?
Last month or two?
Yep.
Got something in mind?
Yeah.
Is it a positive happy one, or is it?
It's a bit that's a little frustrating.
A little frustrating.
Yeah, it's just a bit,
Okay. So we make sure it's just a little frustration.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So we're not going to do any time therapy here. We're just practicing the process.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you're ready, go just pop both feet flat on the floor for me. That's it. And just relax the muscles around your eyes and your jaw. That's right. Just follow my language. Float up above now and turn and face the future. Turn and face the past. Sorry, go all the way over the past. And can you float to what we call position 1, where you're looking down on the event just after the event happened, and let me know when you're there. So you're looking down on the event just after the event happened. Let me know when you're there.
How high down is it?
Just so you're disassociated, so you'll know that's the right height for you, so you're not feeling any emotion there.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Good question. Yeah. You go there now. Good. So
Yeah.
good. And then can you float to position 2, so you're looking directly down on the event from it?
Yeah.
Good. And can you now? I want you to float to position. In fact, go float right down inside the event now to position 4, looking through your own eyes, and just let me know the emotion you're experiencing in position 4. Notice the emotion getting stronger as you do.
Yeah.
Good. Well then, what's the emotion there?
It's a mild annoyance, a bit of frustration.
Cool.
A little bit of kind of laconic humour.
Love it. Now float up to position 3, so you're up above the event and before the event, and happened way before any of the chain events that led to that. Looking down, you're about 10 or 15 minutes before that event happened, let me know when you're there.
Just anywhere before.
Yeah, looking
Yeah.
down at before, yeah. You
Oh,
there,
right.
make sure before the chain events that led to the event.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And then from position 3, float back to now, come down through and open your eyes. Awesome. Well done. Very good. Now, I don't know whether you're aware, some people when they're travelling in the timeline, there's an awareness of a direction. So if I were to ask you to point to your future, what direction would you point? Just curious.
Oh, yep.
There we are. And your past, what direction your past? Yeah, cool. Okay. And sometimes I notice when people are doing timeline therapy, their head's kind of moving. That's just quite normal. Okay. Good. So now you understand we've got an interesting when we let go of anger and frustration, we've actually got a memory to test as well. We'll just make sure we've let go of that frustration.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to just wander into the future because the future hasn't happened yet. So if you imagine an event in the future, you have to be using your unconscious mind, okay? So I know you've experienced anxiety before. So whenever you experience anxiety, your mind wanders into the future and creates an imagined event of something going on. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to go into the future and imagine an event, except we're going to imagine the event going very nicely. Because there's going to be some good stuff that happens. There's going to be birthdays and Christmas and happy events. So we'll just see what your unconscious mind gives you, if that's all right. Yeah, awesome. So when you're ready again, just pop your feet flat on the floor. And when you're ready in your own time, just float up above now and turn and face the future. Float out of the future to that unspecified time in the future, all the way out until you experience a positive emotion, a positive happy event. And when you get there, just stop and dive right down inside the event so that you're looking through your own eyes. Let me know when you're there.
Yep.
And just curious, what emotion you're experiencing in that event?
Kind of like peace.
Nice. Just enjoy that feeling, then go up above that event to position 1. And then from position 1, which is up above the event, after the event happened, looking down on it, there might be positive learning there, but it doesn't matter if there is
Do
or
I
not.
need to turn around?
Yes, please, yeah. Position 1, and then just come back to now from position 1. Just bring any confidence or reassurance back with you.
So I come above it, but I go further into the future?
Yeah, so position 1 is after the events happened, further
right.
into the future. Very good question.
Okay.
And then from position 1, come back to now, all the way back to now, down to the room and open your eyes.
Yeah.
Awesome, well done.
Yeah.
So now, Gordon, what we've done is you have now experienced the 4 different positions of timeline therapy. We've dissociated in the past twice, so we know we're going to, in position 2, I'm going to be asking you what is it you need to learn from this event to let go of the emotion. And then we've wandered out into the future, and in the future you've imagined an event. Now that event wasn't real, it was imagined. Some people see really vivid things in the future, some people don't see anything. Some people don't visualise, they just have sound or feelings that occur. Some people just get a sense. So however you imagine that event in the future is likely to be very similar to how you imagine these events in the past.
Well, the future one was actually a bit like a past one.
Yeah.
That I kind of thought would be a nice one.
That's fine.
Future, that's the thing. Right?
Yeah, because it's still imagination, right? It wasn't
Right,
real.
okay. I kept finding when I was in one of them, whatever one it was, so number 1, the future one, my little floaty above thing wasn't happening very well. It kept getting dragged
Yeah.
right down.
Good.
And then I've got a little concern about, do I need to, what if I get the wrong one?
Yeah, it's a good
What
point.
if
Good point.
you say 3 and I think 3's
Yeah.
over there somewhere?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, and I think the important thing is that I will always remind you where those positions are during the process. And some people are more visual, some people are more kinesthetic. So I tend to, so if your future is here and your past is here, then position 4 is the event itself, looking through your own eyes.
Got it.
Position 2 is looking directly
Yeah,
down
I
on the
remember
event.
that one.
Yeah. Position 1 is looking down on it after the event occurred. And position 3 is looking down on the event before the event occurred. The crucial bit, Gordon, is all of these 3 are disassociated. So none of these positions 1, 2 or 3.
So if you're above it, you're disassociated,
Yeah.
and if you're, so it's only 4 that means you're in it.
Exactly.
Alright.
And all of when we say disassociated, we mean not feeling emotion. So the bizarre thing, the strange thing is we're going to let go of the emotions without you feeling emotion. Is that okay?
I can go with that.
Yeah, good. Good. And then we test it. Once we've let go of the emotion, we only go into position 4 once we've let go of it. So this is a pain-free process.
We're talking the right language.
Yeah, cool. So are you prepared to give this a go?
So let me just see if I got it. So we're gonna go, I've got this big thing I want to get rid of, which I'm very keen to. We've talked several times about it. I'm really keen to get rid of it. We're gonna do a guided meditation kind of. Sounds a bit unfair, but it's something along those lines.
Timeline therapy.
Right,
Yeah.
timeline therapy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and there's positions. I don't need to go into the event. I just need to look at it, and you're going to ask me what I learned by looking at it.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you for the learnings. Now,
Right.
the key bit here, the key bit we haven't talked about, is that we're not going to go back to the significant emotional events. We know what they are. We've got them in your history. We're going to go all the way back to the first event of anger, then the first event of sadness, then the first event of
That's the
fear.
next thing.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And you won't consciously know where those events are. So we're going to go back to an event because you know as a dad that actually your kids experience those emotions before the age of 3. So this is the bit that people struggle with TLT typically. They go, how the hell am I going to get back to this first emotion before the age of 3? That is always the bit, and I always pre-frame it and say that's always the bit that people struggle with. So however you imagine those events in the past is however you imagine that event in the future. There'll be elements of visuals, auditory, kinesthetics. And I think at this stage, the best thing to do is almost just feel like playing the process. And then you'll be surprised at the results from doing so. Because your unconscious mind is symbolic, it's not logical. So therefore we have to tap into the symbolism of the unconscious mind in order for this to work. Is that okay?
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So feel like you're playing at it. Say the first thing that comes to mind. Keep your eyes shut until I ask you to open them. Follow my instructions, and we'll be good. And final thing to say is I'm going to follow a script that elicits the root cause, and the script goes something like this. So it is a bit weird. Now the reason it's a bit weird is partly because timeline therapy is a global process, so we have to have global belief systems taken into account, and also the unconscious mind is symbolic.
Sorry, you threw me a second. The global process.
Yeah, so timeline therapy is used in Asia, it's used in North
Alright,
America.
okay, literally.
Yeah, it is,
Global.
it's global.
Okay, right.
So of course we've got to take into consideration that different countries, different cultures have different belief systems. Okay. So the process, I'm going to ask your unconscious mind these questions. Ask your unconscious mind what's the root cause of anger, which when disconnected will cause the problem to disappear. If you were to know, is it from before, during, or after your birth? Now this is the bit that weirds people out. I'm going to ask you so quickly that you feel like you're guessing. And then I'm going to accept whatever answer you give me, but it has to be before the age of 3. Is that okay? And then as soon as
I get it, what you said earlier, that makes more sense.
yeah, cool. And then as soon as you give me an answer, we're going to go straight into taking you back into the past and letting go of the emotions. Is that okay?
Yeah, I get it.
You ready? So
Yeah.
I think, unless you need a coffee or a quick break, I think we're probably ready to get going.
I think I need a break.
Yeah, cool. So I'm just going to demonstrate the root cause really quickly. Is that okay? So go on, you ready to, I just want you to relax, just settle in. One of the things I've learned is for people who have quite a lot of internal chatter, it's useful just to relax your muscles around your eyes and your jaw. So if you can do that for me, just settle in. And go on, when you're ready, can I just check if your unconscious mind is it okay if you let go of this anger in the future wherever consciously? Okay.
Yeah, I think so too.
And can I ask your unconscious mind, what is the root cause of this anger, which when disconnected will cause a problem to disappear? If you were to know, is it from before, during, or after birth? Before, during, after? Before, during, after? Before, during, after? Before.
Strangely, it's going to be 4.
Cool. In the womb or before?
Before.
Past life or passed down through the generations?
Actually, it's changed a little bit.
Oh.
It's actually in the womb, is that right?
Yeah, it is. And what month in the womb?
Bit of a guess, because
Yeah.
7
Seven months in the womb, perfect. And then we're about to crack on with timeline therapy, right? Awesome. Thank you. Cool. Thanks for the demo. Appreciate it.